Hello, I'm Steve Ryder and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with bet365. On my left, friend of the show, Paul Ferguson, back. Obviously was on for the opening show of the season. How are you, Paul?
Good, Steve. Good to be back.
Yeah, I'll get you to concentrate on the national hunt element of it. It's obviously going to be a bit of a strange show with us obviously touching on the flat as well, having had a few Guineas trials. And making his Racing Weekly debut is Tony Calvin. DC, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very good. Right, we've got a few news topics to obviously then touch on before we get into racing recap. First of all would be obviously Paddy Brennan retiring from the saddle. Has obviously been a stalwart of the weighing room. He announced it in the style of Ruby Walsh, I'd say, at Cheltenham, waving to the crowd. That was on Wednesday aboard Man of the People. Tony, I think you've had a bit of a relationship with Paddy over the years.
Yeah, I go through a column with him for about 3 or 4 years, and yeah, he's good, very, very knowledgeable. I think he has a massive input into the placing of the Fergal O'Brien horses. I think, like I said, that's a natural progression for him going there. Very, very intense man. He's always a bit kind of like smouldering, whether he's just about to catch fire when you deal with him. But yeah, it'd be tricky to see what Sandown, the BHA, do on Saturday with him, because obviously he started his 18-day ban on Monday, but hopefully that won't get in the way of him being, you know, applauded by his fellow jockeys and the BHA, etc. at Sandown on Saturday, because Fergal O'Brien has got a runner on the card. I'm assuming trainer and jockey will both be there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get him the send-off he deserves. Paul, if I had to ask you for one performance from Paddy Brennan over the years that really sticks in your memory?
I think probably link back to Imperial Commander, wouldn't it? Obviously had a good relationship with Q-Card as well, but going back, I think, yeah, you think that's the one you naturally think of. And I'd just echo what Tony said. He's actually one of the jockeys that I don't know particularly well, Paddy. Know quite a lot of the national jockeys, but I've never really had much of a relationship with Paddy. So, but in terms of his, I think possibly it might have happened at Aintree if he'd have won the bumper. So I think it's been something that's probably been in the back of his mind for some time now. And as we always say, it's good for them to bow out in good health and things. So hopefully, as Tony says, maybe see what the next chapter brings.
It's funny, the Imperial Commander, I was there when everyone thought he'd won the Betfair Chase that day. I think that was about 10 or 11 years ago, wasn't it? I know he was massive odds on in the photo, and when the announcement came over the tannoy that he got chinned, Paddy couldn't believe it. I don't think anybody else could believe it, but obviously went on to bigger and better things.
And the main question for you both, would Q-Card have won the Gold Cup the year that Don Cossack, if he hadn't fallen?
No opinion.
Well, no, he was travelling well. He was travelling well. I'd say he must have gone mighty close.
Yeah, I always like people that it matters when they get beaten.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the story about him still being bugged by it 2 years later. I actually like that in sportsmen. That actually, if it doesn't matter, then you shouldn't be there.
Oh yeah, it definitely haunted him for a fair while afterwards. Bless him. Paul, we'll go back to some of the jumpers to follow, obviously throughout the season. Anything that kind of exceeded your expectations?
I was just trying to refresh my mind before we came into as to the horses we mentioned on the first episode. Etalon done particularly well. He started the season rated 120, reached the mark of 142 after winning his first 3 chases. He was particularly good at Sandown when he completed the hat-trick. I would have liked to have seen him gone for the red run rather than the Grade 1 at Aintree. That was the race that I had in mind for him all year. Obviously, Dan had other options for that race. It was disappointing at Aintree, but I think that race was a bit slightly... not many got into it really, with Matata causing a bit of chaos at the start, and it didn't really develop. So he's been dropped a pound to 141. I think he'll be worth following still in the top end handicaps next season. And Gidley Park's another one who won his first 3 over hurdles, probably a little immature for something like the Albert Bartlett at this stage of his career, but certainly wouldn't be writing him off. I think he'd be a top novice chaser next season. Yeah,
no, definitely. Culminating towards the end of the season, we've then obviously got both championships that are still, I would say, in the balance, but we kind of know where we're going with the Trainers' Championship. But the Jockeys' Championship kind of has taken a turn in the last few days. Sean Bowen is now only 7 behind Harry Cobden. Harry Cobden without a winner since Outlaw Peter on Friday from 18 rides. Sean Bowen's picked up 3 in that time. Obviously, Sean Bowen has a few rides. Obviously, Perth at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even riding for Gordon Elliott. So this isn't quite yet over yet.
No, and it'd be nice if they could close the gap. Obviously, the main thing for Sean was that he was so far clear on Boxing Day when he had the fall, ironically, off one of Gordon's in the Grade 1 at Aintree in the Formby Novice Hurdle. Yeah. Far and Glory came down, it was a nasty fall and it kept him out. I think at one stage he thought it was going to keep him out for the full season, so for the fact that he got back, I suppose, is a bonus, but I think bar for that, Sean would have won it, obviously. And now, yeah, it would be nice to see them close the gap and maybe it go down to the wire and see if that can draw a bit of attention on Saturday.
Yeah.
But obviously in Ireland as well, we've still got, there's just 5 between Jack and Paul in Ireland, who Punchestown's going to be crucial in, with Paul, I assume, coming over to England maybe a little bit more than he would have. I don't know how much that'll impact. I haven't checked the fixtures, but you would think, I assume that most people would think that Paul will catch up and make the ground at Punchestown, given Willie's ammunition, but I say Jack's 5 ahead in that battle at the minute.
Yeah, 2 Jockeys Championships going down to the wire. Who do you think is going to win both championships, Tony?
Well, I think the favourites. I think obviously Cobden there. If I was Sean Barron's agent, I might have rung up Willie and asked for his 4 on Wednesday. But yeah, like I said, Cobden's going to be riding in the more competitive races, you'd have thought. But yeah, you probably hang on there, 7 clear. And I think Mullins is the archetypal 101 shot, isn't he? Given that he's got 25 entries, as we'll come to at Sandown. Quite how many will run is another matter altogether. And it's interesting the point you make about the Irish jockeys title race. Would he keep back if the title is secured at Sandown very early? Would he keep some of those stars back for Paul at Punchestown next week? So we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, obviously, yeah, Willie Mullins has kind of got one hand on the Trainers' Championship thanks to Macdermott, and that's where we're going to start Racing Recap. So as I said, the first race that we're going to recap is the Scottish Grand National. Macdermott was a big drifter on the day, Paul, out to an SP of 18-1, but managed to hang on by a nose. Willie Mullins had the 1-4-5-6 and 4 winners on the day, so it was quite a day for Willie Mullins.
It was, yeah, and I actually hadn't noticed the drift through the day. I was at Bangor, so we were flitting and I was working there for Weatherby's, so it was when the race came on, I was amazed to see his SP at the end, to be honest. Like when he turned out, I wouldn't have seen that. Didn't think he jumped particularly fluently, and we were talking before on that. Race IQ said he made up ground. I'm slightly surprised that he was kept wide throughout. Obviously, his horse would probably progress now. There was only his 6th chase start, his 2nd win. Willie was talking about the Aintree National possibly next year, so it'd be interesting to see what path he takes from there. But yeah, obviously another big day for Willie there.
Yeah, it was really progressed. It won by 12 lengths off a mark of 121 at Fairyhouse, but I certainly didn't see this coming, TC.
I'd never heard of the horse up until the 5-day decks. I mean, obviously he won that previous race on April the 1st off a mark of 121, and I wouldn't say I was the biggest follower of Irish racing, but yeah, when he appeared and was the 8-1 favourite at the 5-day stage, and like I said, I had to go through the format. It just shows you what Mullins has got depth-wise. I mean, if he's plucked that out of nowhere, to go and win a Scottish National, and like I said, he was. I think it was 7, 8, 9-1 favourite when the betting opened on the Monday before, and he was like readily available at 25-1 plus on the day as well, just near the off. So yeah, it's just a staggering strength in depth, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. A few of the beaten horses, Mr. Van Gogh was obviously well gambled just before the off, but would prefer a softer surface. Both the Paul Nicholls runners, Stay Away Faye and Broken Halo, apparently made respiratory noises. So wind ops, I'm sure, will be in the happening over the summer. And Gitmaker, I thought ran a good race in 3rd, was Tanya's selection, best bet on the show last week, but yeah, just jumped quite poorly and yeah, ran on quite well to finish 3rd, I thought. Yeah,
obviously you have to feel for the 2nd, don't you? Heat trader at the minimum price in running, and yeah, just a bit of a heartbreaker, wasn't it, for the small yard there? But yeah, Gitmaker, I mean, a lot of its form has been in smaller fields, and obviously when he finished 2nd at Cheltenham, he was racing on his own in 2nd for the last 2 fences or so. But yeah, Gitmaker ran a very solid race, but like I said, the jumping probably undid him.
Yeah. And then the other highlight at Ayr on the day was the Scottish Champion Hurdle, Favouring Fortune won by a length on his handicap debut for a mark of 138. Paul, I just thought he jumped particularly better on that better ground.
Yeah, he did. I've been waiting to see him on a bit of better ground, and again, I know the official ground was described as soft, but the horses who were winning and performing well on Saturday, I thought, were horses who did want a bit of better ground, so I think it was more in his favour. He was another of the leading prospects actually from Jumpers to Follow this year, and it's good to see him come good at the end of the season, winning a valuable handicap. He only went up £3 this morning. I would imagine, I think the post-race comment said that he'd stay over it, and I'm not surprised. I saw him at Hereford when he made his chase debut. He was there that day, and at Aintree on Boxing Day. He wouldn't be the biggest. He's quite compact, so I think he will take to fences and he'll jump. but he wouldn't be naturally one you'd look at and say, oh, he's going to improve massively for fences. So not surprised he'll stay over hurdles, and you would imagine off a mark of 141, something like the Great Wood or the Welsh Champion Hurdle will be the starting point early next season. But I think that slightly better ground could be important to him, so maybe you'll get him out a bit earlier in October, maybe.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, some of those early season handicaps. But then if you look at the strength and depth of those 2 mile hurdle division behind Constitution Hill and Sergina, there isn't a lot behind him. There's kind of spaces that Rubo was fulfilling, obviously, this season. He could kind of slot into there, I think.
Yeah, horses like that have that kind of ilk. Second season hurdles, if they go and win a big handicap early season and then pushing a mark of 150, then you do start to look towards them pattern class races, the listed in grade 2s and things, because they can often be small fields. Obviously, we hope the Constitution Hill's back, but if he's not early season, then there's definitely a void for a horse to come and fill the gap, as you say.
Yeah, TC, I thought there was a couple of good performances in behind. Kraken Rhapsody ran well from a pound out the handicap. I thought Affadil was just brilliant at this time of the year again, ran really well. Finished obviously 5th in the county hurdle, 3rd at Aintree, and then on to here.
Yeah, I think if the title's not already over, it might have been if Bialystok had held on there. I think he traded very, very short in running 10s on. But yeah, Kraken Rhapsody, another very good performance, won the Moor Battle, and yeah, it was good to see Alan King had a relatively big winner, because he's had a pretty subdued season, hasn't he, as a whole. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be a massive fan of the horse. Obviously, Fabian, unfortunately, he won that off a mark of 138. He's going to need to take a big step up to go in those graded races. But then again, like you said, they're quite shallow, aren't they? That pool.
Yeah. If you look at where it's going to be for the Christmas hurdle, the Fighting Fifth, when we had Not So Sleepy winning the Fighting Fifth, you'd say that it's along the same calibre as him next season.
Yeah.
Paul, I'll come to you for anything else at Ayr. I thought we had a brilliant to see Sharjah. I mean, if you'd have told me that he was winning a 3 mile novice handicap chase at the start of the season, I thought you were mad.
Yeah, again, I think for him to stay 3 miles on, I would think the ground he always wants a bit better ground, and he saw the trip out really well, to be honest. The likes of him and Tommy at Oscar both carried top weight in their respective races, and it was a bit of back class really from former high class hurdlers in regards to both of them come through there. So again, Tommy's Oscar would be another one who'd like a bit of better ground. Chosen Witness, another Willie's later on, and when he liked Favour and Fortune, he ran in the Champion Bumper last year. I think he was actually the last horse to win out of the Champion Bumper from last year's race. Was really strong, and he was the last one to win his maiden head. Well, Adrian Shear obviously hasn't won over hurdles, but had won at Punchestown, but they've all subsequently now won. He was the last one, I think, to step up and trip, and he settled better in the first time. Hood there was something for him, and I would say probably from a class angle, Willie's other winner, Key de Bourbon, was probably the pick, although he was just quite slightly workmanlike, but I thought he was well on top in the 2.5 mile novice hurdle. Interesting, he's got an entry in handicap hurdle at Sandown on Saturday, the last race on the card, and he's also in the grade 1 over 3 miles at Punchestown. I thought he'd probably have done enough for the season now, having probably had a tough race when finishing 3rd in the Martin Pipe. I'd expect that form to work out. I think that's strong. So yeah, he's got an unusual pedigree in terms of his sire and things going forward, but the way he jumps, he looks like one who should develop into a high-class novice chaser, I would have thought, next season, going up to 3 miles for Jigginstown. Yeah,
that's exactly where I looked. I looked at the Turners market. I thought obviously winning the Martin Pipe 25-1 with bet365 next season for the Turners. So yeah, could be one of those ones that steps up from handicap company from the Martin Pipe and goes straight into those grade 1s over fences.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll obviously see him in the beginners to begin with, but then I do think I'd be surprised if he wasn't up to graded class level certainly by the second half of next season. I think that race will work out well. Waterford Whispers, I noticed he hasn't got any graded race entries at Punchestown. I'd be interested to see if they give him one last go on a handicap. There's a 2.5 mile handicap on the final day, the Saturday, which could be right up his street. I think he's got another handicap in him before he goes up in grade. But I think that was a good race.
That was he ran a huge race. Waterford Whispers, he was far too keen throughout, and like you said, you thought he was going to hang on after the last. But yeah, it's obviously we all know that's traditionally a ridiculously strong handicap.
I think Gordon's winner. I think he'll run in. I would expect he will run in the graded 3 mile novice hurdle at Punchestown, better days ahead. So hopefully we might be able to sneak Waterford Whispers into one more handicap and get a price on.
TC, anything that took your eye elsewhere at Ayr?
Not really. I mean, like just echo Sharjah. I mean, they were absolutely cock a hoop with that win. Obviously, it meant a lot to them being an 11-year-old, 6-time Grade 1 winner. But yeah, it just goes to show when they've got the depth they have, they can afford to kind of like roll the dice. I mean, nobody had Sharjah down as a 3-mile handicap chaser, but given that it's been with them. Like I said, it's been with them from since about 2016, so they were particularly happy with that. And you mentioned the Mullins horse. Again, he was absolutely massive drifter as well. So it's punters will learn sooner or later that Mullins is quite good, won't they?
Yeah. That bulk discount he got on hoods has really worked for Willie Mullins, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was a shock at Cheltenham, wasn't it? Well, on the Sunday before, when you seen the decks coming through, it was hood,
Yeah.
first time hood.
Yeah, it's curious, that, isn't it?
Yeah. There was just one more performance at Ayr, and it's actually from the saddle that I thought was worth noting. I thought Patrick Wadge was absolutely brilliant on checker out. It was a bit of a strange race. Ottesini and Coco Mademoiselle kind of raced clear of C'est La Vie, and he was the only one to make any headway to actually then get into the race. Ended up winning fairly comfortably by 6.5 lengths. But Marcus Townend in the Mail did a really good article. I was amazed to read that he had 62 losing rides before he rode his first winner, Patrick Wadge. And now you look at him and you just cannot believe that. He took 63 attempts to actually ride his first
He's nailed the conditional jockey's title already, has he?
Yeah.
How far is he? Well,
yeah, he's clear. Caleb Quinn was going to be. It was going to go up to the final day, but obviously with that injury, that's kind of meant that it's Patrick Wadge's.
Yeah, he's a good. I think the fact that Lucinda seems happy to put him on any horse is a big vote of confidence for him as well. You don't just see him in boys' races. No. You see him in, and the rides are shared about from Lucinda's, and he's all amongst the riders who gets the. So I think I'd say that was a big pointer towards the regard in which he's held as a jockey. Yeah,
you look at a few of these claimers coming through and you think, oh, once you actually lose your claim, you might struggle, but here's one that's definitely just going to kick on next season, I think.
Yeah, I'd expect so, yeah. Good.
Yeah. We'll then go to the flat action. We had a few Guineas trials at Newbury and Newmarket. The first one, I don't think will have too much bearings on the 2,000 Guineas itself, obviously being won by Gelding, the Greenham Stakes Esquire. I mean, I didn't see this coming. I'm not sure about you.
No, it was quite lowly rated gains for the race, but someone knew because it was 28s to 16s on the show. Got what might have been the favoured rail and won quite nicely, but you'd be struggling to look at that in classic terms, even if he wasn't a gelding.
Yeah, no, definitely. The race that might have more of an impact on the 2,000 Guineas will be the Craven. I thought Hartem was a really impressive winner. I was there that day, 3.5 length winner, beating Evan Shaddad, so he had the right horse in second. Winner is now 25-1 for the 2,000 Guineas with bet365. Thoughts on the performance?
I asked around with some of the jockeys who rode at Newmarket last week, and they all said, we want to see that form replicated again without the tailwind, because if you were on the speed at Newmarket, it was a massive factor. So without decrying any of the performances, like I said, you want to see if that kind of like stands up in what would be normal conditions. But Hartem looked an improved performance. We kind of knew what he was last year, but I think the step up and trip, it did look an improved performance. And when you look at that 2,000 Guineas, and we'll come on to 1,000 Guineas as well, at the moment there's not a lot of great depth there. So if you've got 25-1 each way, about a guaranteed runner, a horse with proven fitness on its side, it looks to a step forward from last season. Then you've got City of Troy, you've got the Rosallion, the stablemate, and a lot of people, obviously, the way Richard Hannon's been talking, Hartem's a distance behind Rosallion. But I mean, you've got the Godolphin, 3-time Kempton winner, was it Noble Sequence? Yeah. That's been running 3 times at Kempton. Stadium races, quickening up. Will Newmarket suit him? But there's certainly far worse bets than Hartem, 25s each way for the Guineas, that's for sure, because like I said, I can't see a great deal in it.
No, it was interesting. Just Sean Levy and Richard Hannon, as soon as in that winning interview, were straight to Rosallion. He's 9-2. With bet365, City of Troy 4-6. And then you've obviously, like Tony says, that you've got the 2 from the all-weather, Notable Speech and Night Rider are the 2 that have kind of come in from unconventional preps.
Yeah, it's a big work week for Ballydoyle this week. And there was a bit of a blip in the exchange price of City of Troy about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't know if anything come of that. They're quite an illiquid market, so it wouldn't take a lot. But it'll be interesting to see how that week goes, because especially with the 1,000 Guineas runners from Ballydoyle as well. I think this week will tell us a lot more about the targets, whether they're going to stay in England or go to France.
Yeah, I think reading 14 of the last 20 winners of the 2,000 Guineas went straight there without a trial. And it looks as if that's obviously going to happen again this year with Rosalie and City of Troy. I'd give a chance to Task Force. He obviously lost his unbeaten record in the Middle Park, but given his pedigree, I thought the step up and trip to a mile would definitely suit him. So yeah, kind of scrabbling around for an each-way play in the race. Yeah. I'd prefer him over Hartem personally. At prices.
Yeah, I mean, I think a few people have pointed. Is it Ghostwriter?
Yeah.
Won on the course.
Yeah,
but the way that Ryan Moore and the Ballydoyle camp talk about City of Troy, they'll be pretty devastated if he doesn't win. Even if he's going to be better over further down the line.
Yeah. We'll then move on to the fillies equivalents, the Fred Darling, or the Dubai Duty Free. Bulgaria tested a few people's ability to read Italian form, I suppose, in the build-up to the race. But yeah, she was a good performance, I thought.
Yeah, you'd be struggling to think that would have any kind of like bearing on the 1,000 Guinness as well. Free in the line, crossing the line. I thought the third of Roger Varian's, is it El Marca or something? I thought, given the way the Roger Varian horses are running in April, I think he's had one winner from 21 runners, as of now. And they really need to catch fire. I mean, if that horse ran well, like you said, with a stable under, I wouldn't say a cloud, but like you said, quite a subdued yard form at the moment. I thought that was promising, and I think the plan is for them to kind of like to go to Newmarket. But it always, like you say, I look at the Varian horses, and they're always ridiculously well backed. It's like Mullins owners. I mean, the punters who follow that yard must have very deep pockets, because they'll be scrabbling around for some change at the moment, given the way way that some of the horses have been running. I mean, a lot of them have been running well, but they've been really well backed and just not hitting the target. The likes of Investo, etc. But I thought if anything came out of the newbie race, it was probably the Varian filly.
Yeah, I thought she ran well. A good race riding, I thought, from Holly Doyle to win the race. Apparently, the winner's going to head to the French 1,000 Guineas instead. 12-1 with bet365 for that. Relief Rally obviously was a good 2-year-old, but they were at pains last year to say that she was a proper 2-year-old, and she finished in 4th. I imagine a drop back down in trip.
You would have thought so, yeah. I mean, like you said, even last year they were talking about, Haggis was saying, this could be another Bashara.
Yeah.
Get the winning done at 2. Anything at 3 is the cliche bonus. Yeah.
If you have your eye on a beaten filly in that, you might have an eye on the beaten filly from the Nell Gwyn. Pretty Crystal beat the 10-11 favourite Dance Sequence by a neck. A lot of people are kind of looking towards the runner-up. She's still a 7-1 shot for the 1,000 Guineas. It's a bit of an unorthodox prep for the 1,000 Guineas, getting beaten and then coming on to win the race.
Yeah, but she's still kind of like third favourite, isn't she? And like you said, the strength and depth of the fillies at the moment would lead you to believe that she still's got a chance. Everyone's saying, the step up and trip will suit. The pedigree will probably underline that as well. But yeah, the winner's not in the race, might be supplemented. Pretty Crystal. I was trying to remember why I knew Pretty Crystal for something. I actually backed her for the Firth of Clyde at 20s anti-post when she finished 4th in her previous start last year. So I wouldn't say it's a bad beat, but she can't win. She finishing 4th in the Firth of Clyde and then winning the Nell Gwyn. It was a bit of a kick in the where. No, the 1,000 Guineas. The favourite's fine. Lang. That seems to be the favourite O'Brien at the moment. But like I said, it's a big work week. There's been some money around for Content, another O'Brien horse, but they were just saying that might be going to France. But I asked around yesterday, and apparently all options are open. It's how they come out this week and how they come out of the big works. But the one I've had at Ramaturel and bet365 were actually top price for a while at 20s, and the horses coming across the board is Ramaturel.
Yeah.
I actually think she's probably just about got the best form in the race. I mean, we know what Christopher Head is. We know he can come over here and do well. Big Rock won very well at Ascot. He's Blue Rose Cien. he got carved up at Goodwood. I think Ryan Moore put some manners on the jockey there, trying to come up his inside and knee. But I think if you look at Ramatorel's Mornay second, I think that's a match for Fallen Angel. That form's worked out really, really well. Obviously, Van Dijk's come out and won the Middle Park, and even the Six has come out and won twice since, including the Group 3. So I think that form is enough. Apparently, they left a lot to work on when she got beaten the pre-impotence on a reappearance. The plan is definitely to come to England. And I think the step up to Royal will suit. She's a Justified filly. The Dam side is very, very, very speedy, but Justified, they get a mile and more. So I thought Ramatorel, I think she's 10s across the board, including with bet365. I still think there's some mileage in that because I don't see a great, again, pains to point out, I don't see a great deal of depth at this moment in both classics.
Yeah, perfect. A nice little recap of the Guinness trials and the current makeup of the races. We're then going to go to the two guys for anything else from the past week. Paul, I'm going to hand back to you to kind of concentrate from the jumps. We obviously had the meetings at Cheltenham midweek. Was there anything that took particularly your fancy there?
Yeah, I was there on Thursday. I was in the office on Wednesday. But the one from Wednesday, probably the one that stood out would be Peaky Boy in the 2.5 mile novice hurdle. Obviously, Encanto Bruno was a notable non-runner in that. Had issues with travel, and I believe it was. He did it well. I must admit, I was there on New Year's Day when he won, and at the time I wasn't overly blown away by him, but that form's worked out quite well. Champagne Twist was second, obviously the EBF final winner subsequently. And I thought he stayed on particularly strongly on Wednesday. Yeah. And I think definitely he's one who would appreciate softer ground, I would have thought, and going up in trip. So I think we'll see him. He was given an opening handicap mark this morning of 132, but I would suspect that'll be irrelevant because he'll go straight over fences next season in Novice Chase, I would have thought. I think it's worth pointing out the same connections as a nice horse on, just digressing slightly, on Friday evening at Exeter, won the bumper. Harry Fry had a nice horse in there that was pulled out, so it probably wasn't as strong a race as it looked earlier on in the day, but Kingston Pride, he'd earlier travelled really well in an all-weather bumper behind Tripoli Flyer. Obviously Tripoli Flyer went close in the entry bumper, possibly should have won it. So that's strong form. He looks a little bit immature as well, so I think the summer will do him good, and I'd imagine he will be a smart novice hurdler for Nicky Henderson and the owner next season. It's
interesting, that Peaky Boy, because I do some work with Neko de Boinville as well, and basically I was speaking to him in the morning before 2 days, following on from that, trying to, I was writing it, we had chat, he said, oh yeah, I got Peaky Boy in a couple of days' time at Aintree, and I think he was surprised that he wasn't confirmed for that Aintree race, so I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he looked quite good there, and I think they do like him,
Yeah, maybe it was a case of not pitching him in too deep, softly, and because he does look like a chaser in time. On Thursday, I was on course. We thought there was a few. Obviously, it was a mares only card. A few notable performances. Pretending made all under Bryony, as Zane Knight had done the day before, and Sam Bruce had obviously done. She's had a good week. Yeah. And you don't want to pigeonhole her by any means, but she is class from the front. She gets the fractions right. Yeah. And when you see it like that, I thought the two Cheltenham rides were very good, particularly Pretending. She went up £7 more to 160 in Malaita, justified a short price. Again, horse who I think, like Renonomy, if you can get easy for me to say, the two of them, if they're winning again, like I think the grounds is, and it was definitely drying out on Thursday. It was more good, I would have said. Under those conditions, she's a good mare from the front Malaita and did it well. Obviously, again, from a class perspective, Golden Ace was obviously the standout on the card. Won in a canter, ridden with utmost confidence, I thought. Step up and trip didn't really bother her. She had 1 over 2-3 at Taunton, so I wasn't overly concerned, especially on that ground, because she does look like she's got a very good turn of foot. I think she was put up £2 more to 143, just to put that into perspective with the Irish mares. Who she obviously beat in the Slowly Run Dawn Run. They've got officially IHRB ratings of Brighter Days Ahead 145 after an impressive display at Aintree, and Jade de Gruzy's 146 after she won the Grade 1 at Fairyhouse. So she's obviously the British handicapper would probably put them up a couple, so at the minute she would, in their opinion, would probably be around £5 below them, but she could develop into a real contender for that race if she can sharpen up her jumping a little bit. She has her own way of getting from one side to the other maybe, but there's no denying what engine she's got. Like, and as we said, she's got that wicked turn of foot. And again, maybe a similar type. I know Power, who won the bumper, doesn't look the most straightforward. I was looking forward to seeing her actually, because I would have given her a chance the week before in the nickel coiner entry, given the impression she made when she won at Ascot, when she come from last to first under Johnny Burke. Similar ride, she was ridden with patience, but she was quite keen on debut when she was beating at Exeter, and I think that's why they're just trying to teach her how to race, and the fact she wears a hood so early suggests maybe she isn't that straightforward. But from paddock's perspective, for that bumper, both her and Asian Star, Dan Skelton, stood out. I thought the two of them looked proper mares in the paddock. She finished 5th, Asian Star, but if you watch it back, she was denied a clear run just as they were heading towards the rail. I don't think she'd have beaten the winner, but she probably would have been 2nd or 3rd, and she's probably one who'll step forward. Dan wouldn't always have them like fully tuned up first time for a bumper, so they'd be the two I'd take out of that race.
Yeah, I was all set to tip Anno Power on our show a couple of weeks ago for the nickel coin, but obviously didn't get declared. Yeah, she doesn't look straightforward, but yeah,
talented.
Definitely. Golden Ace is 10-1 with Bet365 for the Mares Hurdle next season. You could see her dominating those UK Mares races up to the festival, because there's not much strength in depth to there.
No, unless, as we were talking off air, unless Willie decides to set up his satellite yard over here and bombard us throughout the whole season, maybe. But in terms of British trained mares, no, she seems to be improving it all the time, because she's at a rate of knots as well, I'd say. She was 9 lengths behind Dysart. Obviously, we haven't been able to see what Dysart could do later in the season against better quality, so she'll be one to be interested in, obviously, next year as well. But Golden Ace seems to have progressed from her bumper form, and she was quite keen through her bumpers, and she seems to be maturing as she's going along. So again, it's always nice to see one of the smaller yards like Jeremy Scott have a top class prospect on his hands. As you say, you would imagine that she could be well placed to mop up a few nice prizes next year, and then end up, hopefully, she might be able to put it up to the Irish come the festival. Yeah,
definitely. Tony, anything from you jumps wise before we head on to the flat?
No, not really. I think nothing really stands out.
No, okie doke. Well, obviously, we had some good action on the undercards at both Newbury and Newmarket.
Yeah, I think we should start off with the first meaningful 2-year-old shots were fired with Coward of the County.
Yeah.
Beat Whistle Jacket, Aidan O'Brien horse, very impressively at the weekend. Funnily enough, Ryan Moore was at pains to point out that the runner-up, this was before the race, would probably be straighter for it. He actually kind of like flagged up that Little Big Bear was actually beaten in that maiden first time out last year, and obviously we know what he went on to do, rated about 122 at the end of the season. So I think they're two very good horses there.
The lads obviously didn't read that, by the way they backed him.
Yeah, well, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, obviously there's been some very positive noises from Joseph O'Brien about the winner subsequently, but one went off even money and got beat, and one went off at 15-2. So maybe there's a disconnect there somewhere, or people rewriting history after they know the result. Yeah. I thought there was a bit of chat around Frankel's half brother Kikuli winning, but I thought the one to take out of that meeting from Jonbon was Kalpana, who won the handicap by 10 lengths. Now, off a very lowly mark of 78, but that's traditionally been one of the hottest handicaps of the year, that Mile 2 race, but it's kind of like come down in quality, which is kind of like borne out by the fact that she was able to win there off a mark of 78, but, she won by street. I think they've got a group filly on their hands. What else we got? JRB. I thought that was really impressive in the Fielden Stakes. Yeah. Again, with the tailwind factor, raced on the pace. Was he as good as he looked? I mean, if money was no object, I might even just say supplement for the guineas and throw your hat into the ring there, especially if something happens to City a draw in the next 10 days or so. But if you ask me for one handicapper, I liked Godwin's son going into the race at the weekend in the Spring Cup, but one thing put me off, because I went back and had a look at his runs last year, and especially at Kempton, I thought he'd need headgear. And I came away thinking exactly the same after he just didn't make up the ground in time there, and I just thought maybe some headgear there. I mean, it could be a family thing, because he got beat there off a mark of 88, and I suspect the handicapper might give him £4 or £5 for that. But given that Tiber Flow was a 110 rated horse, the Dam was a 109 rated horse as well, and interestingly, the Dam won in the first time advisor, and they tried Tiber Flow in headgear as well. So maybe Godwinson next time, retrieval mission. Maybe they might put some headgear on, but yeah, I think Godwinson's probably still got a handicap mark in him. Handicapping him. I don't know what he's been revised to this morning, but I imagine he got smacked about 3, 4, 5 pounds.
Yeah, he'll be running all those big handicaps throughout the season, you'd imagine. Going back to Kikuli, apparently heads to the Heron Stakes next, and then possibly on to Royal Ascot. So we'll see, obviously, then how he progresses. There was just a couple that I thought to note. You've already said about Coward of the County. I thought, yeah, he was really impressive. I think both the 1-2 there are going to definitely be Royal Ascot aspirations. And the one that I took out of the Wood Ditton was Lead Artist. I was there that day. He was very coltish in the parade ring and kind of was a bit inexperienced, as you'd expect on debut, but was closing at the finish, and I thought he was actually really unlucky not to win. So yeah, he'd be the one to take out. And I thought it was nice for Hamish to win. Obviously, he's a bit ground dependent, but yeah, as an 8-year-old, he just runs to his level, and yeah, I think he'll have a good season if we can continue to have all this rain.
Yeah, I think they're going to go Chester or the Yorkshire Cup, I think they said afterwards. And I think he probably won in spite of the ground there, because it was drying out a lot at Newbury. I think it was officially good to soft, and it was even good to soft in places, good in places on the straight course. And we all know he's a bit of a slot monster, so he probably did very well to win there. I mean, he's about 8-year-old now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Still cracking on.
8 years old. Excellent. Right, that will bring to the end this week's racing recap. Before we get into our Sandown preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have an ITV Racing price promise. They will not be beaten on price of any horse for all UK and Irish races shown on ITV Racing. Full T's and C's can be found on the website. So we'll concentrate first on the jumps racing on Saturday, the highlight being the Bet365 Gold Cup. Kitty's Light currently heads the market, Paul. Arguably should be a 2-time winner of this race, in my opinion. Currently a 7-2 favourite with Bet365 for the race.
Yeah, I think that's about right, to be honest. To be slightly unoriginal, but we've seen before that he can back up runs, which is important, because this time of year we sometimes don't know if horses can come out. We see it from Cheltenham to Aintree, and likewise this is even later. Last year he only had 7 days between his winning the Scottish National to winning this race. As you say, in 2021, controversial finish when Enrillo was thrown out. Probably should have won that day. He was off a mark of 1:39 that day. He runs on Saturday off 1:45, which he was beaten off in 2022 when he finished third. That came 21 days after his second in the Scottish National. But if you looked at the winner that day, Hewick was only giving him £4, so Hewick was obviously still well handicapped at that point. I thought Kitty's Light arguably ran a career best in the Grand National.
Yeah.
Off a mark of 1:46, the only British trained runner in the first 7 home. The first 4 who finished in front of him were all previous Grade 1 winners. So I thought he took a little bit of time to warm to the fences, but second set he was ideally positioned throughout by Jack, and I think a lot of people were willing him on for Christy and Charlotte and the family, but he ran an absolute blinder, and I say if he does back up, hopefully the drying ground will be in his favour. Tony might want to elaborate on the weather there in a minute. We were talking off air before, and I based my assumptions on that we were going to get good ground, which is what they're saying at the minute, but there's been a bit of watering, and Tony's taking an update about the forecast that's in the that we've seen in the past couple of hours. Yeah, I think he's the one to beat for me. A couple of bigger prices I was going to touch on if the ground was better. Am I right of Henry de Bromhead? He was a non-runner in the Kimmuir. We haven't seen him since the Paddy Power over Christmas. I think he's definitely got a decent handicap in him off his current mark, a staying handicap, and I say he wants better ground. The fact that they pull him out of Cheltenham shows they're prepared to wait for when conditions are right, which I like. And the other one who I thought ran probably better than his finishing position of 4th at Aintree was Canondo Quaitu, Sam England, and he definitely wants better ground, genuinely good ground suits him. We saw that in the Summer Cup last year at Utoxeter. He was dropped a pound, but will still race off 1:44 here. Again, I wouldn't say he was chucked in by any means, but off that kind of mark, I think he's a solid performer. Around 20 to 1, you could see him going well at bigger odds.
Yeah, and Am I Right is currently double figures, tens with Bet365.
Yeah.
Tony, over to you.
Yeah, I was definitely working on the basis of good ground when I looked at this race yesterday. I was surprised to see that Sandown have been putting on since April the 8th, 10 mil every 2 days on that track, because I don't live that far from Sandown. That surprised me, but it's officially good ground there at the moment. There are spits and spots of rain every day, but overnight the forecast is worse than for Saturday. Now there's some forecasters saying they've got 10 mil coming, and like I said, there are bits and bobs of rain throughout the week, and as we know, sometimes a drizzle can turn into a deluge, you know, with the weather like it's at the moment. But I'm working on the basis of good ground as well. I liked Annual Invictus. He obviously he's very mixed form about his Doncaster win, but the second's come out and is now £11 higher after winning and a very good third at Aintree. And I just thought that he's unexposed over this kind of trip on decent ground. Now, he ran in the race last year, Annual Invictus, and finished sixth, but all Annual Invictus best form, including at Doncaster, is when they've been forcing it. I think they were mindful of the fact they didn't know he was going to stay last year. I think he got out of his ground. They rode him in midfield, got outpaced and stayed on again there. I think you'll find, hopefully, it'll be a more aggressive ride this year. Annual Invictus and Bet365 are top price 25 to 1. So in the hope and expectation it's going to be good ground. Like I said, it's Annual Invictus wants it as quick as possible. In fact, if they weren't watering and it was good firm ground, it'd be right up his street as well. So yeah, hopefully it'll run better than it did last year with a reversion to his best tactics, which are prominent racing.
Yeah, talking of horses that are outpaced and staying on at the finish, the one that took a massive price was Sam Brown. He's a standout 50 to 1 with Bet365 for this. He's ran so much better this year since the application of Advisor. Beat Two for Gold, who's an Ascot specialist in a Veterans Chase on his penultimate start, and then just kind of lost his position at a crucial stage when second at Aintree last time. This step up in trip on this ground, I think, would definitely suit. I assume bookmakers are thinking that he's an unlikely runner because of his busy campaign, but they've entered him at the 5-day stage. Yeah. There's no jockey bookings at the minute, but I imagine they're going to want Freddie Gingell to ride, who's obviously claimed 5 on his last 2 starts. And looking at what Nicholls got entered in it, Cobden's jocked up on 3 under through 5, and they've got Angus Kalido on Enrillo. So he would be open to this ride if available. I just thought 50s was a big price.
Yeah, 50s is a very big price. I mean, everyone just thinks Sam Brown's wants a bit more dig than this lately, but he's been running well on better ground of late. He's actually officially the best handicapped horse in the race going into it, because I think he got raised £4 for that Aintree run, so he can race off his old mark here. Yeah, 50s looks very big to me. I mean, I wouldn't like to be laying him anywhere near 25s and 20s, given his recent form. Yeah, and he's handicapped to run as well as anything else in the race.
I thought the ground was drying out plenty on Grand National Day. Like I always have him earmarked as a mud lover, because that's what we've thought over the years with him, even from his hurdling days. But yeah, he stayed on well, didn't he? Obviously finished in front of Conondo Cueto. So
well, I can definitely see your two. Like you said, it's if you get good ground, and I suspect with that worsening fork on Saturday, they might kind of like rein back a bit on the watering with that in mind. But I can definitely see all your three.
There you go.
Combined. That's 27 against the field in a maximum 21 a race.
To be fair, the majority of them, obviously, other than Kitty's Light, are all double-figure prices.
I should say that 9 of the 28 currently in the race have got alternative entries either this week or the following week at Punchestown. And, we've mentioned it before, Willie Mullins has got 2 in that race that are entered in Grade 1s at Punchestown next week. So, and there is that situation, if he wraps it up early on Saturday, the trainer's title, he's pretty much won it already, but if he officially can't lose it after maybe the Oaksey Chase or the Celebration Chase, we could well be, he might just pull some horses, and as he did for very different reasons 8 years ago at Sandown, he could keep a load back for Punchestown next week and pull Townend's title bid, as you said.
Yeah, and this definitely will play out in our next race, which is the Bet365 Celebration Chase. I mean, this could be all change with the market. Currently, anti-post wise, we have El Fabiolo, favourite at 10 to 11, Jonbon 2 to 1, Gaelic Warrior 9 to 2, Edwardstone 5 to 1, last year's runner-up, Captain Guinness 7 to 1, and it's 25 to 1 bar. So it's over to Willie Mullins on what he's going to run. Jonbon I thought was brilliant at Aintree. I doubted him, but yeah, I thought that was probably a career best performance, Paul.
Yeah, I've always been waiting for him to step up in trip, to be honest. And thought he won that through stamina. So coming back, I know he's a 3-time course and distance winner, so obviously 2 miles around Sandown, you'd say he's just looking strictly at the form figures, we'd say Optum. But if you watch that Aintree back, he looked a bit flat-footed 3 out and kind of won through stamina. I thought if anything, you'd be looking at maybe going even up further in trip next season. Perhaps they were thinking it was going to be an easy, as it often is for a horse of Jonbon's calibre. The celebration chase can actually sometimes be a weak grade one, but it's obviously not going to be this year.
Well, it could be.
It could be. I think El Fabiolo will run. I can't see Gaelic Warrior running. No. Surely he waits for the 2-mile novice chase, which looks an absolute penalty kick for him.
Yeah.
If he was to come round here, obviously right-handed, and he'd be a sight over the railway fences. But I think El Fabiolo will run and be difficult to beat. I think if he hadn't run at Cheltenham, he wouldn't be anywhere near 10 to 11 in the anti-post market anyway, that's for sure. Prior to Cheltenham, obviously, he was 6 over fences. I went back just to check. Obviously, we know he's got form at Cork and Punchestown. He's unbeaten on right-handed tracks, so it's just curious. And I went back to his French form. He was actually beaten in a flat race at Clairefontaine as a 3-year-old, which is the only time he's been beaten racing right-handed. And Nemean Lion actually finished second in that race, believe it or not, when I was going through it yesterday. So, but jumping-wise, if he can get back to, obviously, where he is prior to Cheltenham, I know a lot was made. Everyone was more concerned about Jonbon's jump in the build-up. Obviously, the match didn't materialise, but and he wasn't totally fluent before he was pulled up. But he wasn't. I don't think he made as many serious mistakes as people were making out. I think, and prior to that, I think never really felt like El Fabiolo has looked like falling. He can take a chance, but as people have said over the years, horses like Moscow Flyer have shown you, as a 2-mile chaser, you have to take a chance. You can't waste time in there. So I think it'd be a sight round. I'd be excited to see him jumping the fences around Sandown. And for me, with him having had the slightly light campaign, it's possible that Jonbon, I think, might have needed the run a little bit, ain't you? Maybe that was a bit of in the finish with him. I thought similar with Segino, that he looked like the two of them could step forward a little bit, maybe after the interrupted prep. Yeah. It was almost like a fresh start for them. So there's a chance that he could step forward. Obviously, I think better ground will suit Jonbon. I think he does want better ground to be seen at his best. But for me, I think El Fabiolo might just have a bit more toe for him. I'll be siding with him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, both of them, if they're both upsides, who gets into the better rhythm over the railway fences, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be great if all three, if Jonbon, El Fabiolo and Gaelic Warrior all enter and all run. I'd be fascinated to see how that market develops with Gaelic Warrior. Because
who does Paul ride if they both run?
Well, he's 92 at the moment, Gaelic Warrior, isn't he? I mean, I wouldn't have a clue how to price that up. I mean,
it'd be a very unwilly thing to do to run a novice in open company. That's not.
Yeah, I mean,
Henderson's done it quite a lot over the years.
I'd say Gaelic Warrior was in there in case El Fabiolo wasn't going to run.
Yeah,
and then he might run him because we're saying I'd gone through the figures. I had the figures down prior to how much difference was. I think it was 100. He's about 180 clear after yesterday. I had them down after the end of play on Saturday. But celebration chase is worth 19, almost 97 to the winner. Basically, if Willie wins that, the title's done. So
even if he wins the Oaksey Chase, I think there's still mathematically.
Yeah, because that's only worth 45, isn't it? So there's the celebration chase and the bet365 Gold Cup are the ones that are worth the best part of 97 grand. So if he is to win the celebration chase, that would put an end to the title. So I think.
You've also got to bear in mind the only horse entered from Nichols and Skelton is Nugget Negra, who's 25 to 1 as well. So from Willie's behalf, if he doesn't run El Fabiolo, you've got Jonbon, Edwardstone, Captain Guinness all running for you.
Harper's Brook, first run for.
Oh yeah, that is true.
First run for Dan Skelton. The Megsons have sent Dan a horse. It's like I said, I think that race will stand up no matter what Mullins declares for it. But like you said, Gaelic Warrior. I think one bookmaker have priced up Gaelic Warrior for that novice chase at Punchestown. You mentioned they've got him in at 2 to 5. So you'd think that's the way they would lean. But
especially with Founder 50 having Anil at Tom, they've gone to entry, so they're unlikely runners. So it really would be a penalty kick for them. So I think in that regard. I would expect him to go to Punchestown. I thought Jonbon, they might be, when they were making the noise that El Fabiolo was coming over. I wondered if Nicky, who's obviously out the titles, not really is interested this season. I wondered if JP might consider switching him to run at Punchestown, but obviously JP's got Dino Blue. Yeah, they still might, but JP's obviously got Dino Blue with Willie, who I assume she will have the option of the mares chase Punchestown.
Yeah.
But that's 2-5. It might stretch it. I think she'll run in the champion chase and El Fabiolo will run here.
It could be cat and mouse. Both of them come out into the parade ring, and whoever withdraws first.
No, I think if there are going to be any on the day Mullins withdrawals, I think it'll be from the Bet365 Gold Cup onwards.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll then switch to the flat, and I'll come back to Paul for later on for anything over jumps on the Saturday. The first one to look at will be the Bet365 Gordon Richards Stakes. 7 entries, all 7 jocked up currently. Although the 2 at the top, I do have slight question marks around. Israel needs to bounce back from a kind of blow run last time, and Desert Hero, I'd have a slight question mark about this dropping trip to a mile and 2.
Yeah, you've got Check and Challenge is double entered. He's in that and in the mile race. I'm looking for the one thing about the small fields, because there's 7 in one, 8 in another. The one thing you can do your pace maps at the 5-day stage, so you can get that in. I'm looking forward to seeing Artistic Star, because he's a horse I had a lot of time for last year. Won at Sandown first time out, ran a good race in the circumstances in Epsom. Didn't really kick on that for me afterwards, but they've gelded Artistic Star, and I think he's 8th with Bet365. I think that is that's a decent enough price, because like you said, I think you look at the ones at the top of the market, and there's 3 all around about the similar prices. I think they're all opposable at the current odds. So Artistic Star, and like you said, hopefully if 6, if not 7, will stand their ground in this, because they're all jocked up, like you said.
Yeah, I was also looking at a bit of a bigger price. I thought Okie Chobi was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Completed a hat-trick of wins as a 3-year-old, and then was off for a long time until second behind Dubai Honour. He had £20 to find that day on ratings. Now, that was his first run for 550 days. Now, obviously, he's backing up quite quickly 25 days later, so you've obviously then got the bounce factor to take into account on there. But I thought 13-2 was fair enough for a horse with his ability.
One of the 2 pace angles in the race, along with Tasman Star, so maybe I don't think Tasman Star will be quite up to this league, but I could see that. You might get a run for your money from the front there.
Yeah, he's only ran once on turf, and that was a 4 3/4 length win. So, yeah, I thought he was quite unexposed in that. Then you've got the Bet365 Mile, Lord North dropping back in trip for the first time since October 2019. I thought the really interesting thing was William Buick being booked. Obviously, Kieran Schumacher is there, but the owners, I assume, have put their foot down and want William Buick to ride. Yeah,
I don't know if that's a reaction to what happened in Dubai. I didn't look at that race too closely, but obviously he was going for a 4 straight win in that race and underperformed to a certain degree. But he's still the highest rated horse in the race. And you'd think there is 3 of these 8 in here like to go forward, the likes of Nostrum. So you'll get a pace to run at. That Dubai turf is over a mile 1, isn't it? So and it's Sandown. Stiff finish and stuff. So, but I looked at that race and I just thought, no, I'm going to wait until I see what the final field is, because not least because if Check and Challenge comes out, maybe we won't have 8 runners, and maybe they want a bit more rain for Poker Face than appears likely at this stage.
Yeah. I'm tipping horses at big prices here this week. I thought Pogo was quite interesting at 25-1. Though he's ran well fresh in the past, finished second after a 231-day break in a handicap of 103, won a listed race off a break of 197 days, and then won a Group 3 off a 63-day break. So he can definitely go well fresh. Last year, his reappearance was in the Queen Anne. This definitely is a lot easier than running a Group 1 on your reappearance. Only has £5 to find on ratings with both Nostrum and Charin. So I thought he would be one that could hit the frame at a big price. But like you said, you currently...
Yeah, like you said, he's got 2 pace angles at the moment as the entries stand, but it's it's heartening that the stable have been very slow, to catch fire this season. But they've had some winners recently, so I could put you off there again. Like you said, you might get go from the front on that as well. But like Nostrum and one other in the race, whose name escapes me, might put it up to him.
Yeah. yeah, bet365 are a quarter the odds 1-2. So obviously assuming
you have to. You've got the double entered chicken challenge,
exactly.
and you've got poker face not jocked up. Might need better ground. So yeah, you'd be working on the basis there's going to be 6 or 7.
Yeah, no, definitely. Paul, I'm going to come back to you for anything else over the next few days, or obviously on Saturday.
Yeah, just Friday evening, there was one who caught me. I haven't seen him for a while. Matterhorn of Paul Nicholls, Johnny Delahaye's. I thought when he first came from France, he probably also wanted bottomless ground, as we just assume when he'd finished third in one race at Auteuil. He's had plenty of wind issues, and it seems maybe that he wants slightly better ground. So it's trying nearly be of interest on the back of a break. He's on a mark of 132 for a 2-mile handicap hurdle. If you go back through his form, he beat Titan Discovery 12 lengths, given £7. He's now rated 124. He then split Bally, I don't know how you pronounce it, Philip Hobbs' name horse, who's now rated 137, and Go to War, won his next 2 and rated 123. He was conceding £12 to both of those on that occasion, so his form's worked out really well. He hasn't run since the Christmas meeting at Kempton, when again he was another one who made a respiratory noise. He's won twice on the back of a break, on the back of a wind-up. I just wonder if he's had another wind-up, and we'll see before we see him. It's not marked up at the minute that he has, but it's probably something to bear in mind, to say his two wins on the back of a break were both on the back of wind surgery, so that will be interesting. And then the select hurdle on Saturday. Obviously I've got a vested interest there. Barbara's got Brewing Up a Storm running. Unfortunately, he'll have the maximum penalty. The weights aren't shown on there, but on the BHA site we've gone through it yesterday. He got a £6 penalty for his win at Fairy House. Yeah. He gets the same penalty for a grade 2 as a grade 1, so he'd be carrying the same as Impere Pass if he travels over. Obviously, he could be difficult to beat, but it was only 16 days ago that he had that tough race at Aintree, so, and he'd be going slightly further. I'd say that the trip 2 mile 5.5 would probably be the furthest Brewin would want to go, to be honest. We tried him over, Ollie'd always want to try him over 3, and he tried him at Aintree last year and he just didn't get home. He travelled really well that day for a long way as well. But I think 2 5.5 on there should be all right. Missed chances early in the season in the Lingfield Millions, and his chance for a third National Spirit, unfortunately, but then that resulted in he was forced then to run a handicap at Kelso due to a lack of options. And then we found the race at Fairy House for him, which was great. Of the others, though, the 2 I thought at the weights who I'd be most fearful of, I thought Katira, if she bounced out of her Aintree handicap win, she gets a £4 penalty, but obviously gets a £7 allowance, so she'll be receiving £9 from those with maximum penalties. Yeah. I thought better ground would suit her. I thought the ground would probably still be a bit too soft for her at Aintree. And I think given that she's had a relatively light campaign with the break in the middle, she might be able to back up. She'd be one I'd be fearful of, certainly on better ground. And Ballyadam, I think, will be unpenalised because his graded wins were so far back as a novice when I've looked at it. So I think the trip could be right for him. In between, he didn't quite get 3 miles and he dropped back. He ran a cracker on the top weight in the Coral Cup. You haven't seen him since. I think, say, if he's unpenalised, I think he'd be a big danger there. Yeah,
Henry de Bromhead's sharing the boat over, isn't he? He's got both Jungle Boogie and Journey with Me in the Oaksy Chase as well.
It seems like, and obviously quite a few of them are Cheveley Park owned as well. So, like with Simon Munir and Isaac Swade, maybe that's something to do with the horse who are selected coming over. The owners who are based in Britain maybe get to see the horse and things like that. So
yeah, no. Definitely. Tony, over to you.
I don't think anybody's priced up that select hurdle.
No, they haven't.
No.
I don't blame them.
That is exactly that is one race, and it might work in your favour. And if it's all done and dusted by then, Imperial Passage is exactly the kind of horse he might just say no. Even though
he's entered in a champion at Punchestown.
Yeah.
But probably that race on Saturday is probably ideal for me. I don't think they want to go 3 miles with him, do they? That's the thing. Yeah. Whether they want to go and they'll take on State Man with them.
Just if you're betting anti-post, you've just got to bear in mind that there is a potential for Willie to actually kind of like make some.
That was the race when he a few years ago when he couldn't win and he took Vroom Mag out of that race, didn't he?
Yeah, he actually got fined £1,000 on the day by the stewards for willful disregard to punters and racegoers by taking Vroom Mag out. But he took the grand and then he probably won about 100 because she won a grade 1 6 days later at Punchestown. So look, it's as long as it's well flagged up, and if you are backing any Willie Mullins horses anti-post, you are running a little bit of a tightrope, especially in the later races. And I was just chatting to someone this morning actually about if Willie Mullins did go for the title, said, right, I'm going to go for the UK title again next year. I actually asked somebody this morning, I said, what price would you make him at? He said, 7's on. And I said, yeah, I made him about 10's on because he's never had a bet runner in a Betfair Chase before. So if Mullins was serious about going for the UK title again next year, I just can't see him, given the amount of runners he has and the amount of depth he has, he'd just win it again, wouldn't he?
You'd imagine so. You also got to look at like his Gold Cup team for next year. Well, Galopin de Champs, Iron Maximus, Factor File. You're going to split them up. I imagine Factor File will come over for the King George. That looks an ideal race for him. But it's
Get Gaelic Warrior back up and trip for the King George.
Yeah, so it's a scary thought.
It is, yeah. Well, he might not have the National Hunt Chase this season. We're going to touch upon it earlier, but the Jockey Club racecourses had they had a lot of the great and good of racing over 3 days of entry, entertaining them and just running them past potential changes to Cheltenham, and I think most people came away from that I've spoke to. It was like if Mullins is a 101 chance to win the UK trainers title, it's about a no offers chance for the National Hunt Chase to bite the bullet next year. But I'm sure there's plenty more discussions to be had. But like I said, it's just amazing. A lot of people, kind of like, decry the fact that Mullins is so good and stuff like that. But in any other sport, you'd be celebrating him.
Yeah.
You shout. It's just enjoy it for what he is. I mean, these trainers, they are very old people in the main. Something could happen and they could retire or whatever. Just to celebrate them for what they are for the here and now.
Yeah. Paul, I'm going to put you on the spot. If the National Hunt Chase goes and we need to find one more race, what is it going to be?
One more race to go.
No. To replace the National Hunt Chase.
The race that I beg them never to put on is a 2.5 mile hurdle, because I just love the entry hurdle. That was always going back years before but then they brought the 3 mile into entry as well. But going back, you'd always see a combination of the champion hurdle horses and the stayers hurdle horses meeting in the entry hurdle.
Yeah.
And it was always one of my favourite races of the year. Probably, if you're saying that, if you'd said it 3 years ago, I probably would have said, in Brewing Up a Storm, would have had something to go for.
Had the chance of winning the Grade One.
I'd like to see a handicap bumper, because I want to see everyone's heads explode.
I think the popular one would be the novice handicap chase to come back, but I think just the amount of the horse population now means that most of the novices can get into the plate anyway. So the horses who would run in that have got that option. Few races have been a bit easier for me with the Cheltenham Festival guide, as long as they don't add any more on for me to try and work on. So.
It wasn't that long ago, they were talking about a 5th day. That would have definitely upped your workload.
Yeah, definitely. No, the 5th day, regardless of my workload, the 5th day was just a...
You must get paid pro rata.
We're
putting a week for you.
Day,
Put 8 days of Galway, isn't it? You'd love it. You'd be a millionaire by the end of it.
There was just a couple more to flag before we go into best bets of the weekend. I thought Royal Supremacy was a double figure price for the Bet365 Isha Cup. As Tony said, he's one of the double entered horses. He's also in the 445, the 1 mile 2 handicap. So head on over to Tony's Twitter and you'll be able to find a list of those doubly entered horses. He won a 7 furlongs at Sandown on debut and then finished 4th to Bracken's Laugh at Newbury. That rival has obviously boosted the form since, winning that Chelmsford race on his reappearance. Royal Supremacy won a handicap at Kempton on his final start last season for a mark of 82. But looks the type to improve. He's only off a mark of 86 now. So there seems to be scope in that mark. And then Arabian Crown, I think, is a worthy favourite in the Bet365 Classic Trial. Won his final 3 starts last season. Was an impressive winner of the Zetland Stakes at Newmarket. Won by 5.5 lengths that day. He's already won a maiden at Sandown, so we know who handles the track. At 6-5, if you like backing those shorties, I thought he'd prove hard to beat. He'd probably go off odds on.
I had a look at that. I mean, that race could cut up because 3 of the horse is 14 runners at the moment. 3 run at Epsom on Tuesday today, as we're recording. So it's going to be there's 3 that won't be turning out again. I thought he had the best form, best speed figures, winning course form, stable and decent nick. What's not to like? I mean, I'd probably rather be a backer than a layer at even money. Yeah,
definitely. Right, before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as the jackpot for all 6. And T's and C's apply. Right, Paul, I'm going to let you go first. Best bet of the weekend, please.
Of the ones we touched on, the short price ones, if you're prepared to take a risk, I'd say El Fabiolo at 10 to 11. He'll go off a lot shorter if he does turn up, and I think he will. But for the purposes of a bit more value, a horse I touched upon briefly in passing, Go to War. Tony also touched on him. He's Fergal's only entry on the card. He's set to run in the first race on the card, the 150, the Bet365 sponsored Novices Handicap Hurdle. Touching on that form that I mentioned at Taunton, he was only 4.25 lengths off Bally that day, and he's now £14 better off. I liked him last year in bumpers. He won first time out at Utoxeter, and he was pitched in an Aintree where he didn't get the clearest of passages in the grade 2. He's been a bit of a slow burner over hurdles, but he's won his last 2 on soft ground. I think he looks like he'd be suited by better ground, so again, drying ground would be in his favour. His pedigree suggests he wants further, but I think he's quite keen, so strongly run 2 miles in a big field might just suit him at this stage of his career. I think maybe next year we'll see him step up and trip. And the fact that on his penultimate start, when he won, he qualified for the EBF final, but instead of going down that route, he then qualified him for this race at Ludlow when he won. So I think maybe they were mindful about the trip at this stage because he is a little bit gassy and a little bit keen. Be interested to see who takes the ride there, but he looks on a fair mark, I think, of 123, and his joint top price at the minute with Bet365, 12 to 1. He'd be the bet I'd be most interested in at this stage for the weekend. And I'd just say, if it was better ground, I'm going to butcher the name here, but Bradan Fiasa. I don't know.
Yeah, you're nearly there, yeah.
I don't know where you're going with that one, but I think he's definitely worth a second look. He has moved in the market with Bet365 today into 16s, but he travelled really well, probably a bit too well in the Boodles, and he's caught my eye a couple of times with the way he moves. Again, a strongly run race will suit him. He gets an £8 age allowance being a 4-year-old, I think. To say the weights aren't out yet, but I've just checked on the BHA site, and he's available at 33s with a couple of firms. I think you'd definitely get a good run for your money with him. He'll travel well through the race, I say, if it is drying, but probably the proviso is the ground with him. But competitive race, obviously, as you see, 10 to 1 the field, but Go to War, I think, is a decent bet at 12 to 1 each way.
Excellent. Tony, best bet of the weekend?
I've only had one bet so far for the weekend, and that's Annual Invictus, for all the reasons I said earlier. Icing on the cake, 25 to 1 top price with Bet365, so Annual Invictus in the Bet365 Gold Cup for me, and hopefully that rain stays away, and hopefully maybe they rain back on the watering with that worsening forecast at the moment in mind.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go against Paul. My best bet of the weekend is in the same race, and it's Steel Ally in the opening race on ITV. He was set tough tasks in bumpers, finished behind both Golden Ace, Gidley Park, but has improved for better ground on his previous 2 starts. Won a Wincanton maiden hurdle by 6 lengths. The form of that's been boosted by the 2nd Dartmoor Pirate, the 3rd Manuelito, and even the 5th Salvatore yesterday. Finished the next second behind Jonbon Quest on his handicap debut at Newbury off a mark of 124. The pair pulled 9.5 lengths clear that day. Jonbon Quest obviously followed up at Cheltenham on his next start off a £7 higher mark. He's got an extra 2 for that today. Steel Ally only runs off £6 higher, so I do think there's definitely scope off that mark. And Bet365 are a standout 12 to 1 about Steel Ally.
You're gluttons for punishment, you two. I can't remember the last time I saw a handicap, and it was, if you shop around, it's 10 to 1 the field.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I have never seen that before. I mean, you don't even get that in the National these days or anything like that, do you? But yeah, good luck with that project, lads.
There we go. 2 against the field. Right. Thank you very much for joining us on this week's episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Many thanks to both Paul and Tony for joining me on the show this week. As always, if you like what you've heard or watched in this or any of our previous episodes, then please leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comment section on YouTube. We'll be back next week in the company of Martin Dixon and Ken Pitterson to have a look at the Guineas meeting and the Punchestown Festival. Thank you very much.